Day 16, M&M Center, Detroit. Here in LA we call them liquor stores, in Boston they call them package stores, but in Detroit they're called party stores. And we had this scene where Aiden is mugged there in the party store as it's held up by this character played by Michael Renda, who plays Peanut on the train scene. And basically the idea is that Peanut has now come back into Aiden's life and is the one who's actually robbing this store. We basically were scattered all over for the right combination of background, graphics, and just sort of like the overall design of the liquor store, the lighting, the fluorescence in the ceiling above, just to try to create like this really kind of late night, seedy little liquor store. And we found pretty much everything we needed because it was not just the interior that worked for us, but the neighboring adjacent exterior also worked for the scenes that followed.
Alright, here we go. All your money, nigga.
So I love storyboarding, and I've storyboarded some of my previous short films from beginning to end, and I started to storyboard Crave, but I kind of realized that it really wasn't that beneficial. I mean, I storyboarded 2 scenes, and I realized that this is helping me kind of start to create the visual language for the film, but it also is detracting me from happy accidents and kind of following the fluidity of reality.
I would like to start like that, and then
my documentary background has kind of trained me to sort of keep an eye out for strange little moments and details that you might not get if you've designed the shot to the nth degree and you don't even think about it because you're being so precise. But for this movie, because we were shooting so fast, had so few days, I thought we should shoot this more in a documentary style versus trying to design every single moment of it.
All right, Patrick's ready. Let's do this. Action.
Having said that, the party store scene was heavily storyboarded by me. I drew out several pages of storyboards, and on the day we actually had the storyboards there. If there's one scene in the film that matches the storyboards pretty closely, it's the party store scene.
It was so realistic. For a minute there, I thought the actor was actually dead.
2010, Chicago, Illinois. So we wrapped in Detroit, but we wrapped with one major disappointment, which was we left town minus a key scene, which establishes Aiden's fantasy world. It establishes pretty much everything about Aiden's character and where he's at.
Aiden is sitting off with some other riders. We have the redhead, got a big car. Chuchi and Peanut come in and torment her. And Aiden decides to act. Goes up, we have a bit of a confrontation. We have Aiden grabbing the rails, kicking Chuchi down. A bit of a standoff with a gun. And that turned out to be a fantasy, and then we have a little bit more of Aiden looking at the tormenting going on, a bit of exchange, talking, and Aiden's out the door.
We were planning to shoot on the Detroit People Mover, but for a variety of bureaucratic reasons, we were eventually prohibited from shooting there. We wrapped Detroit, went back to LA, I licked my wounds, started working on the cut, trying to figure out what exactly we needed, and 8 months later, we eventually found ourselves in Chicago. Chicago was the most welcoming and helpful. And we used the L train, and Chicago gave us our own 2-car train, and we just went around the loop in downtown Chicago and just did circles all day long. We shot our train scene. It was a pretty straightforward shoot. It was actually kind of fun because Josh got to fire his fantasy super weapon, which was not originally planned, but the weapons master that day brought in this kind of crazy over-the-top gun, which seemed kind of fun. You know, it wasn't entirely easy. There were certain challenges in terms of coordinating when you have a weapon on set, when you're firing rounds at people, when you have to just have all these safety precautions, and on top of that, you're on a moving train. Which is occasionally stopping at stations with real people at them and then keeping those people off our train so we can keep shooting. Things like that could be a drag after a while, but it was totally worth it, and it certainly gave the film everything we kind of needed in order to establish Aiden's character in the beginning. One interesting side note was in my day job as a DVD Blu-ray extra features producer, I have been lucky enough to work on a few projects with Michael Bay, including Transformers Dark of the Moon, and that happened to be shooting at the exact same time as I was shooting this one day on Crave. I was actually going out to Chicago to work on Transformers, and through some miraculous lineup in the schedule, I found out that my days on set of Transformers were going to be right after my one day on Crave. So I went out for Crave, I stayed for Transformers, and it was just kind of amusing that as we're going around the loop in Chicago, we would just occasionally hear these giant, like 50 caliber guns firing as the Autobots and the Decepticons and whatever else is like destroying Chicago is like right outside the window of our train. It was an amusing contrast between our tiny little movie and the giant behemoth that is a Transformers film.